So I've noticed on the social media things around solo RPGs, a certain question that seems to be bouncing around occasionally is to do with NPCs, non-playable characters. What do you do with them? What do you do if they sort of become a part of your party, or they're just simply a significant little side character? Well, to answer that question, or at least give my take on answering that question, I want to talk about how solo RPG has a certain advantage. It allows you, with regards to roleplay, have your cake and eat it too. Let me explain. So from my limited experience, it seems that in roleplay games, there's two broad ways that you roleplay. Firstly, you take on the position of someone else. You roleplay as someone completely different to you, a different gender, a different species, maybe you're an alien, something like that. And for a moment, you get to occupy a different set of shoes. You get to be someone else, think like someone else. And at its best, it's a great opportunity to develop those sort of empathy skills and see the world from different vantage points, which I think is probably a pretty good thing. But the other way that you can role play, which is a little less advertised typically, is the idea that you more or less just play yourself, or are very much a proxy for yourself, but in an absurd situation, one that you're never going to really find yourself in. Like, obviously this can be done just with any roleplay game, but pushed to the extreme ones like that End of the World series by Fantasy Flight, where literally as you're playing the game, it starts, the characters of the story have literally what's in your pocket. And there is some appeal to that. Like, in a way, we like the idea that we ourselves are someone that could be significant in one of these adventure stories. More than that, it allows you to sort of explore in your mind and have these adventures that maybe you've always wanted to do, but I don't know, for some reason you can't. And in addition, it actually is quite difficult to genuinely think like someone else. You can't help it. You have got all your baggage like guiding you into certain directions when you make a choice. You may have decided to have role-played as some sort of, heartless thief or something like that, but the reality is you're not heartless, and you can't help but making correct moral, whatever decisions in the moment, at least decisions that you would normally make. So inevitably we compromise, and we just basically play the game as if we are there, as our proxy is kind of in the game, even though these absurd things are happening, and that's a legitimate thing to do. But like I said, you miss out on that first one where you get to empathize and be someone else. And that's where solo RPG offers a good opportunity to do both. So again, this is more the way that I play solo RPGs. I'm sure everyone does something different. But more or less, my player character, the main character in the story, is more or less a proxy of me. I do dabble here and there about trying something different, but on the whole, I don't expect the player character to have an overly different moral compass to myself. I will typically make the same sort of calls I would make as a person because I try to make good decisions most of the time. Don't always succeed, but I try. Now, there are mechanical factors that come into this, I might talk about some other time, that allows me to try and play in a different way that I normally wouldn't, act in a different way that I normally wouldn't. But on the whole, like I said, the main thrust of my decision making is me. But the thing about solo play is you are also the dungeon master. You're also the person responsible for bringing this world to life. And that's where the first type of RPG can start rearing its head. See, while the playable character is more or less you, in order to have effective interactions with other NPC characters, you kind of actually have to stop and think, what would it be like to be that person, that different person to me? You have to take a moment and maybe sort of try and empathize with someone in that kind of situation. Just for a moment, just for a brief window. It's not overly taxing. You don't have to do it for like a big, long, eternal campaign. You just for a moment, just for a time, try to be someone else. And you couple that up with some sort of oracle table to make sure that you don't completely get your own way as the person playing the game, being someone else who doesn't necessarily agree with your player character. And you've got yourself a believable enough NPC. And the fun thing is, even if you start playing around with that character for a while, you're finding it difficult, a bit tricky to sort of gel with this kind of person, you do the best you can, but soon that character leaves the stage and another character enters. You get to role play as someone completely different again. An entirely different character, which I find fun. But this hasn't answered the question about mechanically. Mechanically, how do you do this? Well, again, for me, I actually try to keep the mechanics of these NPC characters light. Even for reoccurring characters, characters who are part of the party. Like I said earlier, you're gonna want a couple of like oracle systems, little tables that cause conversations to skew off in directions that you don't expect them to. But other than that, you try being empathetic. You start thinking, well, yes, I know that right now, in order for this narrative to progress and this quest to occur, you know, this person needs to follow along. But you've got to be honest with yourself and say, no, they wouldn't. They would really want to get revenge. They don't want to help me out. And although you haven't rolled on any table to determine that, it does make sense with how you understand the universe functioning. Obviously within the parameters of the fantasy universe that you're playing. And now it's on you as the player character to roll some sort of determinant to see if you're able to convince them or persuade them or intimidate them, do something to make them change their mind. My point's simply this: yes, there are indeed game mechanics, and there's some really good ones out there. I think if you play around with a lot of combat rules and turn them into conversation rules, you know, instead of like striking with a sword, they're striking with some sort of witty comment. Instead of being all defensive with a shield, they're being all shut up and quiet. But all these rules should play in service to you taking a time to sit down and think about how someone who is not you, someone in a different situation in life, someone who has different dreams and different fears and different aspirations, and try to think, well, what do they think? You couple that with actually asking people in your real life what they think and getting to know people who aren't all that similar to you, and you know, you might find that more than just your games will become more engaging and colourful. At least that's what I think. Like I said, this video was inspired by something I saw on Facebook, a question that kept reoccurring on some of these solo RPG sites. I hope you found that interesting. These little short form videos, for those who are subscribed to my channel, I will be posting some more shorter form videos at the moment. Life and work at the moment is quite hectic and busy, so these sort of smaller videos a little bit quicker and easier to edit. So other videos like the bigger, longer roleplay games and the war game type ones will come back, but at the moment time is pressing, so just these little things will hopefully get us through. If you haven't subscribed, by all means, if you enjoyed this, please do so. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. But I appreciate your company regardless. And hopefully you'll see more of me again in the future.